This is Ravcasts a Pub. I have reset up my sound system, and this is an attempt to see how well that has worked out. So I am casting specifically my pal Chris here, who is picking the OmniKnight. And we are going to see what's going on. So it looks like we've got an OmniKnight and a Lion for the Dire, which does mean that their two supports have been picked. And on the other team, there's a Juggernaut, Storm Spirit, and Faceless Void. Not entirely sure why the game music is not playing. I think it was because I paused the game here, so let's see if things come back. Oh, there is going to be a Tinker versus Storm Spirit. That does appear to be a very classic lane matchup here. I think in the early levels, this is a very Tinker-favored matchup as opposed to the Storm Spirit. And the Storm Spirit in the late game will be able to catch and find that Tinker,
10
though.
To pick your
So
hero, you moron.
I think if the Tinker gets off to a
5
good
seconds,
start
Marty,
and
it'll
manages
be
to get
fine.
ahead of the Storm Spirit, that will be better. But once the Storm
Come on,
Spirit
Radiant
gets
team, you gotta pick 'em
likely
right.
the Kaya and the Bloodstone, there will be some issues for this Tinker. The Dire also picked up a Warlock. That tells me that this OmniKnight's going to be played off lane, and the Warlock and Lion will be the support duo. And Spirit Breaker is going to be miserable to play against as this Tinker. Between the Spirit Breaker and the Storm Spirit, I do expect this Tinker to have a very challenging game. The one thing that I'm not so happy about with a Warlock Lion lane or support duo is that there's not a lot of roaming potential. They'll be able to keep whoever their hard carry is very, very safe, but there's not a really great person to go roam and help this Tinker in the mid lane or the OmniKnight in the off lane. I suppose that Lion with the double disable will be able to do some stuff, but I think I would have preferred maybe something like an Earth Spirit, maybe a position for Mirana, something that has a little bit more roaming potential. Necrophos on the Radiant team. I expect
You really
this
gotta pick a hero.
Necrophos
You
to...
got 10 seconds left.
I guess it's a position 4 Necro. And the Dire final picks a Medusa, which does mean that the Dire is expecting to go late game. This Medusa will be able to stand up against the Storm Spirit, but I am not sure that the Medusa will be able to do it on her own. I do expect this to devolve into a very long... if it goes a long game, there's going to be a lot of split pushing. The Dire does have a nearly impossible high ground to crack, and hey, look at that. We've got some audio going on here. And I'm a little confused about the Radiance... lanes here. I'm not quite sure what to expect.
I know, Morty. Just follow my lead.
Faceless Void's going out without any regen, which certainly is a choice. Juggernaut appears to be going to the safe lane. I presume Storm Spirit's going mid. Yes, Fairy Fire Tangos. And then
Oh, man,
Necrophos hasn't bought anything, so I presume he's going to go for that position 4 and try to force this Spirit Breaker into that position 5. Lanes for the Dire seem to be a little bit more on what's expected. You know, we've got a Medusa safe lane with that Warlock helping out. Looks like the Lion is going to start off in the bottom, trying to bully this Juggernaut and what appears to be a Spirit Breaker duo. The combination of that OmniKnight plus a Lion together are fairly hard for two melee heroes to deal with. Maybe that Necrophos will end up going down bottom lane as well to try to help out with that. All right, and it's looking like a fairly quiet start to the game. I'm not seeing anyone doing any aggressive movements. Looks like Shweeny here He's going to try to maybe fake out that ward. No, he does end up putting it right there, which is not an awful place. I cannot draw on the map there. Not an awful place to put up a ward right now. Alright, I expect this mid lane is where things are going to happen. That's where the main battle is going to happen at the beginning of the game. And let's just check in on the top lane here. We do have this Necrophos is being fairly aggressive, going for the Heartstopper aura first, just trying to get that early degen in on the enemy heroes. I'm actually not a big fan of that. I think the Death Pulse is the better pick early, and it looks like he's signaling going into an early Dagon. I see that as a very high-risk, high-reward play that might end up working out in his favor, but it might end up going quite poorly. This Necrophos is now getting that Shadow Word. Without that Death Pulse for the regen with the last hits and denies, he's going to have a rough time of it. The one who's actually ending up at the really good end of this is this OmniKnight. He's got more last hits than the 3 top cores on the Radiant combined. That Lion is really allowing him just to get those last hits in and keep that Juggernaut fairly well down. The Juggernaut's only got 3 to this OmniKnight's 6 and 1. Oh, OmniKnight also going in for that early point in the degen aura just to keep the keep that Juggernaut slowed down and keep him under control. All right, if we pop back to the mid lane here, it does appear that this Tinker is getting the upper hand here. 6 and 3 to the 2 and 0 of the Storm Spirit. A little surprising to me that the Storm Spirit only has 3 last hits and appears to have used at least 3 or 4 remnants. And I unfortunately missed that first blood. It appears that that Juggernaut ended up going down to this OmniKnight. While there's a pause here, I suppose we can jump back a little bit and see what happened here. OmniKnight gets the spin and then is immediately hexed into the stun. And then he didn't have much of a help. There wasn't very little that he could actually do about it. I think that the Spirit Breaker, if he had charged in, might have been able to help. But that is a hard ask. I think there's a very good chance that the Spirit Breaker might just have gone down as well. All right, just check in on things. So also this Medusa doing quite well. Already has her Ring of Aquila at 2 minutes and 13 seconds. And the Tinker is still doubling up this Storm Spirit. I'm wondering if that Storm Spirit used a couple of his remnants in order to harass this Tinker and not get a last hit at the same time, which early on in the game just isn't really a good use of your mana. You really need to get those last hits down. But, you know, there might have been a creep that survived on 2 or 3 HP just on the way through. Faceless Void and Necrophos really here. 2 last hits apiece. They're not really getting all of that much done right now. They are being fairly effectively bullied out by the combination of the Snake and the Shadow Word here. Both of those and 2 ranged heroes just able to right-click them from a distance. Necrophos does have a point up on the Death Pulse, so he will be able to start regenning up a little bit. So that is at least good for him. I am a little bit behind, so let's see if I can jump forward a little bit and find when this pause ends. There we go. And it looks like I only missed a couple of last hits on the way, so that's fine. And the Juggernaut porting back in after this unfortunate disconnection. And we've got a Spirit Breaker charge coming in. It appears to be on the Tinker. Are they going to be able to make something of this? That Storm Spirit needs to be walking in if they want to make anything of it. Otherwise, there's just going to be a little bit of... Oh, I wonder if the Storm Spirit has disconnected as well, because he is just standing there. And if I were the Tinker, I would be taking advantage of this and getting that kill, yeah. I mean, if your opponent's just going to stand there for you. Unfortunately, it looks like things in this game are getting a little clowny. That is the danger of trying to cast a pub. We've still got this OmniKnight down here pretty well dominating over this Juggernaut. Um, you know, almost a full level above as well. Just those 4 denies are really going to help along with that. I wonder if during that pause the Storm Spirit got up to go to the bathroom and just hasn't gotten back yet. That is kind of unfortunate if your team doesn't keep the pause for you if you do end up stepping away. So Tinker now getting free farm here. I am much less worried about this Tinker now than I was at the beginning of the game. Considering this 13-10 to 3-0 lead, I will say that this Tinker does have the advantage of having a free lane now because the Storm Spirit appears to be AFK, but the Tinker was getting a pretty good advantage over that Storm Spirit anyway. I think that laser from the Tinker was just making it very hard for the Storm Spirit to get those last hits. But I think really the big winner right now is the Medusa. She has doubled up the last hits of the Juggernaut, and she definitely needs those last hits and needs to get that farm going. Juggernaut has been able to recover a little bit since the Lion left, but Lion comes in, gets the Hex off, but does not get the stun off before the spin. Alright, the Storm Spirit back? Or did he just TP in? Oh, there we go. Okay, he is moving. He is back. Something's going on here. So we do have 3 Radiant heroes up here on the top lane. Let's see if this Spirit Breaker is able to make anything happen with his friends Void and Necrophos. Looks like the Storm Spirit actually might go down. He's getting very low on health, but the Tinker does not have rearm yet. Going for an interesting 2-2-2 build. I think he would have been able to get the kill if he had gone either more into rockets or laser and left the March of the Machines at 1. Or not even gotten March of the Machines at all. He's been fairly good at just sparring here. All right, now we've got, once again, going in onto this Juggernaut. Are they going to be able to get the stun? No, the stun is off the mark. But they are able to chase this Juggernaut out of lane. Faceless Void appears to be retreating to the jungle and still at level 3. I think the bigger story here might be this XP lead of almost 3,000 at 6 minutes in. The highest on the Radiant side is this Juggernaut, who does end up going down once again to the OmniKnight. I presume it was just another Earth Spike into Hex, and the OmniKnight just sits there and smacks on him with that hammer. Able to actually put down quite a bit of damage as they go along. So while the Tinker is doing alright, I actually kind of expected more, and it looks like their Necrophos does go down, but they're trying to get the return kill onto the Warlock, which they are able to get. But I do think that the Spirit Breaker is going to go down as well, that Snake. In the end, the return kill does put the first kill on the board for the Radiant, but I think feeding a double kill into that Medusa is not really a worthwhile trade here. And for those who are joining me at the moment, this is Ravcast's A Pub, just getting a little bit of casting practice in and making sure that my new sound setup is working properly. So any feedback on the sound levels or balance would actually be super useful to me right now. So OmniKnight's clearly going for an aggressive build here, going for those phase boots. Phase boots combined with the degen aura, just allowing him to chase down the enemies, although he does not have a point in repel yet. I think that point in repel would actually be very useful, especially when the Juggernaut goes into his spin, able to repel off that damage. All right, we've got the Void is around as well as this Spirit Breaker.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Excuse me, and charge going in on this OmniKnight, but it is almost immediately countered by that Lion. As Storm Spirit has TP'd in, are they going to be able to do anything? If anything going down, there goes down the Lion. But it does take both almost the entire mana pool of the Storm Spirit and the full Omni Slash from that Juggernaut. You know, not really a high priority kill here, but any kill for the Radiant team at this time is really worth it. That 200 gold going into the pocket of Juggernaut ends up finishing up that Ring of Health for him, which is, you know, an important step on the way to getting that Battle Fury, although he is stopping by for the phase boots before. Looks like Medusa and Warlock are attempting to push this top lane in a bit and continuing the harass up on that Necrophos. If you're not able to get that get those last hits in early with Necro, that health regen just isn't going to be coming. One thing I do like from this Necro is he does appear to be going for a different item build, although they are diving for this. Even with those wand charges, is able to get the jukes out of there, and Medusa and Warlock do end up backing off. I like the chutzpah of going in for this one. I think certainly without the wand charges and that good juke that the Necro would have gone down. But the Necro does get the return kill on to the Warlock, but does end up going down himself as soon as that Mask of Madness is popped. This Medusa is just able to pump out that damage. So while the Warlock does get slightly punished for being a little over-eager there and going for that dive, the Medusa is the one who ends up getting a return kill on that Necro, which in the end is, again, better for this Medusa. This Medusa is currently 3-0 at 10 minutes in, and she's already got that Mask of Madness and most of... she was going for the Dragonlance first, but appears to be changing her mind. I wonder what she's going to go for instead. It doesn't look like she lost any money on the deal, so it looks like she sold in the time. But there is 3 here going to the mid lane. Faceless Void had an opportunity for a great chrono, but that chrono is not going to happen until you're level 6. Juggernaut is finally getting a little time to himself down here, which is some good recovery time for him, but they are going to end up losing this mid tower. Even with Storm Spirit TPing in, he has Null Talisman Bottle. I'm not entirely sure how much the Storm Spirit's going to be able to do. It's actually taking a good third of his health to that March of the Machines there. And we've got Lion hiding here in the corner, getting that Hex off just before and into the stun. Are they going to be able to get that kill? Yes, they are able to get that kill. That was a really nicely timed Hex into Earth Spike from that Lion, setting up that kill for the to share with the Tinker, and then the Tinker does manage to get the tower. And the top tower has gone down as well. Medusa continues to just farm up a storm here. She opts to finish off the Wraith Band and then the Ogre Axe instead of the 2 bands of Elven Skin first. I think she's wanting to tank up a little bit here, and I can agree with that. I don't think she's really lacking in damage at the moment, and just getting a little bit of tankiness here. And it looks like we've got people wrapping around onto this Juggernaut. Turning around, the Hex comes out, laser, stun, rearm, repel, and then just a couple of right clicks. Tinker's not quite able to get the right clicks going there, and Juggernaut does manage to get away in the trees there. Let's see, are they going to be able to turn around? Spirit Breaker is charging into all 4 here. Does have his ult, and that does seem to be a little bit over-ambitious, but with the Storm Spirit jumping in, still not quite able to get that kill off onto the Tinker, who is the big pick here, but they do manage to get the Lion once again with that Omni Slash. So once again, we've got Warlock and OmniKnight backing off there. In the end, a 1-for-1 trade, the Lion for the Spirit Breaker. They were going for that Tinker, who does now have his Boots of Travel. So that Tinker was going to be the big prize there, and they end up not getting it. They made a really good effort, though, combining in both the Spirit Breaker charge ultimate and Storm Spirit jumping in, but he just had too many allies around. All right, so once again, we have a pause coming in from the Tinker. This time it's the Tinker going away. I'm going to jump forward and see if we can skip some of this. All right, there we go. We are back, and Storm Spirit jumping in gets some damage in onto this Warlock, but between the Purify and the Shadow Word, this Storm Spirit's now almost out of mana. He might be in trouble. If OmniKnight's able to get in there, and the Tinker coming in as well with some rockets, it looks like Storm Spirit is going to be able to walk away from this. Although if he stays around too long, his luck might run out. Those rockets doing a lot of damage combined up with that Shadow Word, forcing him to back off. Not enough to kill him, but clearly a bad news bears for this Storm Spirit. So if I were the Radiant team, I would really want to be spending some time and making some space for the Storm Spirit. Storm Spirit and Faceless Void are going to be the two heroes that are the best at coming back from something like this. They're going in on the Medusa. That might be... you don't catch the Lion as well, so the Medusa ends up being able to just sit there. The Lion coming in, Finger of Death onto Faceless Void. It's looking like a whole bunch of ults being used here for not a whole bunch of effect. You know, 3 heroes get a little bit low, and everyone just sort of walks away and decides that this is better spent elsewhere. The Warlock does spend his ult trying to get this tier 2 bottom here, and they certainly are... Well, it looks like they're going to be backing off here, getting a little nervous about some rotations, but then Chris coming in, but they are able to get that deny. Chris backing off, I think, at the right moment here. Faceless Void coming in, jumping in on a OmniKnight who's 5 levels above him, and with that degen aura, OmniKnight just sort of walks away and is kind of like, Void, what are you doing, man? You know, what did you expect here? Tinker's about halfway to his Blink Dagger and starting to really just clear out those lanes. You know, TPing back home, going lane to lane, just able to really focus on clearing things out. Dusa has finished up her Dragon Lance and is now almost done with her Hurricane Pike, just about 400 gold away. I think by the time she clears out these jungle camps here, that Hurricane Pike will be hers. If she was a little bit lower on mana, I bet she would have wished to use that snake on those satyrs instead. All right, we've got Tinker going in, and there goes the Spirit Breaker. That courier manages to get through and get the Demon's Edge off to the Juggernaut. Not sure how I feel about him going straight into that Demon's Edge. It is the bigger item, and he just took a huge amount of damage there from both the Tinker and the OmniKnight. OmniKnight trying to get another cheeky Purify in there, trying to back him off. Oh, good lord, Medusa. You are doing so much damage with that Mystic Snake. Those last 2 bounces, I think that did 600 damage on that Faceless Void. That's a huge amount of damage. This is actually really going to become a problem. The Radiant team really needs to focus on getting their heroes that are going to be important for this comeback, the farm they need. Necrophos does go down. Necrophos, I'm not sure what he's doing. Is he, in the end, going for... Is he going for the mechanism? Is he going for the Dagon? You know, it's actually hard to tell which one he's going for. because he has the wizardry and the null talisman, but he also has the headdress and the chainmail. So it's hard to tell which way is going. So for the Radiant, I'm really seeing they need this Juggernaut to finish the Battle Fury, which he just did. They need him to get farm. And they need the Storm Spirit to finish the Kaya. All right, he's got that. And to also start working on, I think Bloodstone is the item here. He's going to need to get the Bloodstone and then manage to get a couple of pickoffs. But that's going to be real hard if the Necro goes down again. If they could pair up this Necro and the Storm Spirit, Necro using his ult around the Storm Spirit to start filling up those Bloodstone charges as time goes on. But we are a long way away from this Bloodstone. I'm definitely seeing this game needs to go long for the Radiant to have a chance. And they need to find a way to slow down this Medusa. This Medusa is 3k above the Tinker, which is actually rather impressive at this point. Although they do manage to get the Tinker down. Thought they were going... There's fights happening all across this map here. Going in on the Lion. The Lion does manage to go down, but the OmniKnight's Guardian Angel means that the OmniKnight will be able to walk away. And it looks like this Juggernaut goes for the Omnislash, but isn't quite able to get that Warlock down. It bounces to the creeps instead. Is he going to go down, not to the Shadow Word, and all of the things he was Fatal Bonds to do die? So it looks like this Juggernaut is going to go, going to get away with it as well. So I really see the Dire needing to push their advantage, and what they need to do is they need to group up and try to force down this last tower here, which actually, frankly, the Radiant should just deny at this point. And then try to breach high ground if they get a pickoff. So the Necro has gone for the Dagon. I kind of understand where he's going for here. It's often able to get you that last little bit of damage into the Reaper Scythe. OmniKnight has finished this. That there. Okay, so the Warlock goes down. There are 4 Radiant heroes top. Tinker was TPing in. Instead opts to TP into the tower. And the Medusa's coming here. Those rockets are going to let them know that the Spirit Breaker is down here. The Faceless Void does not have Chronosphere, though. And this Storm Spirit is really low on mana, so he is trying to sneak it up here and get them. But with those items in his backpack, he now has just a few mana, just enough to get away there. The OmniKnight's Yule Scepter almost able to provide the catch. I think they really needed the Lion there for that Hex, for that kill to happen. It looks like the Dire is going to try to just finish off this tower. The Spirit Breaker is trying to get the deny, but ends up putting it right in the range of the Medusa instead. All right, Medusa once again clearing out those waves with her Snake and the Tinker coming up, laying down that March of the Machines and getting out of the way. Building into the Ags next, which I think is going to make just team fights for this Radiant squad really a nightmare if you aren't able to count on your abilities being able to hit. All right, so we've got the Yule Scepter up on the... he is going for that spin TP out. He will be able to get away. They don't have... The only thing that they have that can go through BKB is that Chaotic Offering, and I really don't think at this point, even though he is their #1 net worth hero, that using the Chaotic Offering for a single kill there would have been worth it. OmniKnight now going for the Radiance has almost finished up this Sacred Relic for it. All right, 2-man Rock coming down, and no follow-up from the Dire team here. This Golem's just going to go down. That's 100 gold there, and a long cooldown used. Another 150 seconds on that. I think there must have been a little bit of miscommunication. They're expecting his team to go in, and his team didn't. So we've got this Juggernaut here trying to spin away. Is he going to be able to get away, or will caught up with that Degen Aura and that Yule Scepter? Chronosphere hits onto kind of the Tinker who walks into it. That is unfortunately just a misplaced Chronosphere. That ends up not going well for the Radiant team at all. I mean, the Radiant team is playing from a 10k net worth disadvantage at this point, and it looks like this Tier 3 is going to go down. I don't think there's a whole bunch that this Radiant team can do about it without that Chronosphere. Now that the creeps are here, even an Omnislash isn't going to do all that much. And we've even got a Spirit Breaker trying to split push here, but ends up going down. They do manage to get the Lion. I imagine the Lion goes down to that Necrophos ult. But now, again, we've got Elena Rax here. The ranged Rax are certainly going down, and I don't think that this melee Rax is long for the world. Spirit Breaker just ends up going down mostly to Medusa right clicks, but then finished off by this Tinker. And I'm seeing another laser kill coming in for this Tinker. Is he able to get away? No. Does end up going down to that Omnislash, but it looks like the Faceless Void goes down as well. And the Juggernaut manages to get a kill, but not actually able to stop this push. They are able to just sit there and wail on the tower if Medusa wants to tank it, but it doesn't look like she is willing to do so. I think they're going to take this mid lane of Rax and maybe go back and get a Shrine instead of trying to continue to push this. Definitely see the OmniKnight coming up top and finishing that Radiance. Taking his wand out instead. And between that and the 90 damage talent, he is hitting for nearly 300 damage a hit. This OmniKnight is actually now quite terrifying. I think the next item for the OmniKnight might be a Sanj and Yasha in order to try to help him continue his, just run at people style that he's been going for. Let's see the other items. Medusa has finished her Eye of Scotty and appears to be... Is Medusa going for an Aghanim? She is. That's an interesting choice. Usually I want to see the Aghanims versus a Illusion Heroes, but they are a little bit light on control. Really only having... this Yule Scepter and then the Hex and Earth Spike. I mean, they also have the Chaotic Offering, but that's not really something you can rely upon every fight. So that slight bit of stun from the Medusa might be enough extra. Once again, this Lion does keep going down. They do manage to keep getting those kills onto the Lion. He has gone down 5 times. Oh, we've got a Chronosphere going in on the Warlock here. Are they not able to get this Warlock in that time there? Medusa coming in with a double damage rune and this Eye of Scotty. And the entire Radiant team does back off from that. Are going in for that Roshan with that double damage rune, and she is just tearing into him. I expect this Aegis to either go on to the Medusa or to the Tinker. Either one is a really good choice, and either one can do quite a bit with it. I could even see it going in on the OmniKnight, and the Radiant team here has no interest in contesting this. Goes on to the Medusa. I would have preferred to see her get rid of, or backpack her Ring of Aquila instead of that point booster. That 175 mana is actually quite a bit of tankiness for her. Storm Spirit hasn't gotten any big items since this Kaya. He does have nearly 2k gold. I will be curious to see what he does end up trying to go for. Necrophos is able to Ghost Shroud and TP out, but it does appear that this Warlock is going down, that combination of the Spirit Breaker and the Storm Spirit. Juggernaut trying to chase down the Tinker with his Diffusal Blade. This Juggernaut doesn't... There's 4 heroes there. They are able to kill him through that spin TP. And it does look like a second tower is going down. Looks like Tinker might have gotten into a little bit more than he can handle there with 3 heroes there. Between bashes from both Spirit Breaker and Faceless Void and the Electric Vortex. You know, that's a dead Tinker for a minute. On the other hand, you know, they've got to deal with this Medusa and her Aegis of the Immortal, you know, trying to push in. And this Spirit Breaker going into the middle of 3 of them, I think, is actually might be the downfall. Chrono is a really good Chronosphere, and they don't manage to get Chris during the Chronosphere, but he gets the Guardian Angel off, which does mean that they'll be able to push forward a little bit and punish this. Honestly, I just think this Medusa is a little bit too far ahead for any of them to actually deal with. And it looks like this Necrophos is about to go down as well. And you know, while Storm Spirit is getting a kill, looks like he is able to zip away there. But there goes the Necrophos, so it's just the Storm Spirit and the Juggernaut trying to defend now. This Juggernaut does have a Diffusal Blade, and the Tinker is coming in, so I think this is actually really bad news here for the Juggernaut. He is getting slowed, and they are able to get him down. He doesn't have buyback. This is almost certainly another lane of racks here. And yep, there goes the Storm Spirit as well in that last bit. Spirit Breaker is trying to go in onto this Tinker, but it looks... Well, I'm not quite sure who's going to get out of who here. Tinker does manage to go down. The Spirit Breaker gets him. But once again, we've still got this Medusa just standing her ground and just being too much to deal with. She's got this Aegis, so even if she goes down, she's going to be, I think, even harder to deal with on her second life than she is right now. Is that Spirit Breaker going to be able to get out of there? No. But this Medusa does just opt to walk away. I think she definitely could have ended up going for it instead of backing up there. I think she could have definitely gotten the racks and maybe popped the Aegis. Either choice is fine. And you know, you're 14k ahead. You don't know how much ahead you are, but you as the Medusa are personally doubling up this OmniKnight. Although it looks like they're about to get a little bit more of gold influx here, as the OmniKnight does get OmniKnight and Lion get caught out there. What I was saying is the Medusa is personally doubling up on the Juggernaut in terms of net worth and items. She does go for that 800 mana shot talent there. And I fully expect her to go for a split shot, uses modifiers at 25. She currently is the closest one to 25. None of the Radiant team has even hit those level 20 talents. Juggernaut, the next one to do so, and I don't think either of those level 20 talents are really going to be game-changing for him. Maybe the Faceless Void extra time walk cast range would help. Spirit Breaker, you know, maybe he could go for that bash damage, maybe the charge speed. But again, I don't think either of those are truly defining. And it does look like this Tinker is now going in for the full split push build, going in for that extra damage on the March of the Machines. right, and it looks like Juggernaut has walked into 2 heroes. He is trying to TP out of there. Broshan could have gone for the Chaotic Offering, but doesn't. I actually think at this point that probably would have been a worthwhile use of the Chaotic Offering to get that Juggernaut down. He is their biggest hero and probably would have done quite a bit for them. But they end up using the Chaotic Offering instead onto the Juggernaut, but Faceless Void comes in and gets a great 3-man Chronosphere. This fight is getting quite split up. Let's see. 2, 3 are going down for the Dire side in exchange for this Faceless Void, but it does look like the Medusa is managing to clear up another 2, and OmniKnight comes in and gets a kill onto the Spirit Breaker. Now we've got the fight coming back together, and it looks like there goes Storm Spirit. Storm Spirit is down. Tinker buys back and TP's in, trying to push their advantage here. All they've got is a Juggernaut and a buyback on the Spirit Breaker, and actually those 2 combined, if the Juggernaut had his ult and the Spirit Breaker had his ult, might actually be able to do quite a bit to hold here, but I don't think as it stands the 2 of them will be able to do enough on their own. Is the Juggernaut even going to be able to get away here? Does manage to get away with a good jump in from the Faceless Void, but that actually, I do have to say that the Ag's ability on that Mystic Snake does do quite a bit of work there. Juggernaut nearly goes down to the creeps and the March and the Sheens there, and that is another lane of racks that is going to be going down here. This Medusa is going to stand her ground. Oh no, it looks like there are 3 heroes. She is going to try to get out here. Spirit Breaker knocks her back, and she is going to go down. I think that is her first death of the game. That is 952 gold going the way of this Necrophos, who has been building up into that Dagon 5, which, you know, is a choice that I understand why he went for it, but I don't think it's the right choice. I think the Aghanim Scepter would have been better here for this Necrophos, just for the additional uses of Reaper's Scythe. All right, Tinker looks like he is trying to build into that Scythe of Ice, but he is fairly low on his gold there because of that buyback. And the Warlock goes down. So it looks like this Radiant team is really trying to make a fight of it. They are still 9k behind. Let's take a look at this Storm Spirit. Storm Spirit has gone in for the Lincoln Sphere, and that means he will be able to take down this Lion, because that Lion will not be able to hex him. I think based on the game, not going for the Bloodstone was the right choice for the Storm Spirit. But it's that Bloodstone and that incredible mana regen that's really going to help this Storm Spirit get back into the game. Although, if Juggernaut manages to get more kills like that, OmniKnight, I'm not sure you really want to TP on this. Although with the Medusa coming in as well, he is going to just spin TP away, and the game ended. Why did the game end? I don't know what happened. Let's see if I can find that game. I was watching it by observing my friend here. Well, at the very least, we can see the end result of the game. And it does appear that the Dire do manage to push it into a victory not actually that long after we left the game here. Again, the Medusa just being far too large. Although the Radiant do bring it back vaguely in the middle there, just not quite able to pull it back in time for a win. Alright, I'm going to call it here. This was mostly a sound test and check to make sure that my new setup was working properly. Thank you so much.